I'm Maricela, and I guess I should start from the beginning. I'd been at college for 2 years, about 3 states away from home. I got there on a partial scholarship. Not full, unfortunately, so my parents had to cover the rest. It's been pretty intense juggling classes and everything, so I didn't visit home much. The thing is, my parents had always favored my older sister, Elowen. Always. Like when we were kids, she got the bigger room while I got stuck with a tiny one next to the laundry room. When she turned 16, they bought her a car. Nothing fancy, but still a car. When I turned 16, they said, "You can walk. It's good exercise." Elowen got piano lessons, dance classes, art classes, summer camps, the works. Me. We can't afford it right now, Maricela. But somehow they could afford everything for Elowen. Elowen was 22 when she married this guy named Kenton, who worked at some big company. I went to the wedding, obviously. But guess what? She didn't ask me to be a bridesmaid. Her college friends got that honor while I sat there watching like some random guest. Mom kept gushing about how perfect everything was while Dad talked business with Kenton the whole reception. So anyway, I was scrolling through Facebook and Instagram all the time, and it was photo after photo of my parents hanging out with Elowen and Kenton. Family dinners, holiday parties, random Tuesday night hangouts, weekend trips, you name it. My mom constantly posted things like, "So blessed to have such wonderful kids," with pictures of only Elowen and Kenton. Notice how she said kids plural but only showed one kid. That stung every single time. Meanwhile, my parents barely called me. Maybe once every few weeks, and when they did, it was never about me. "Oh, Maricela, you should hear about Kenton's promotion. Elowen and Kenton are looking at houses in the nice part of town. Kenton got another bonus. He's so smart with money." Never. "How are your classes going? Are you eating enough? Do you need anything?" Just Kenton this, Kenton that. Like he was their real child and I was just some forgotten obligation. Got used to it though. Honestly, I barely noticed anymore because I was so busy with school and work. I worked at this little cafe near campus. Nothing glamorous, taking orders, making coffee, cleaning tables, but it paid some bills and gave me spending money for things my parents refused to help with. The worst part was family events. Last Thanksgiving, when I did make it home, the entire dinner conversation revolved around Kenton's job and how he was going places in life. Dad kept saying things like, "Now that's what I call a real career path," while looking at me like I was wasting my time in college. Mom nodded along, asking Kenton about his work projects and bright future, while my attempts to talk about my studies were shut down with a dismissive, "That's nice, dear," before the conversation went right back to Kenton's amazing accomplishments. So Christmas break came around, and I was actually looking forward to going home for once. I'd saved up money from the cafe and bought everyone small gifts. Nothing expensive, I was broke, but thoughtful stuff I picked carefully. A nice scarf for Mom, a book Dad mentioned wanting, and some fancy coffee for Elowen and Kenton. I figured maybe this time would be different. Maybe they'd actually be happy to see me. I took the train home carrying my little bag of presents, feeling pretty good about myself. But when I walked into the house, there was chaos everywhere. Boxes, suitcases, people running around packing stuff. My parents were there, Elowen and Kenton too. Everyone talking over one another about moving dates and shipping costs and plane tickets. Nobody even acknowledged me at first. Dad grunted, "Oh, Maricela's here," without looking up from paperwork. Mom waved vaguely in my direction while stuffing clothes into a suitcase. "What's going on?" I asked, standing there with my bag of gifts like an idiot. "Don't bother us right now, Maricela," Mom said, not turning around. "We're trying to get everything organized for the move." Move? This was news to me. What move? Which street are you moving to? Everyone stopped what they were doing and laughed. Like actually laughed at me. Elowen had this smirk I wanted to slap off. "Not which street, Maricela," Mom said like I was 5 years old. "Kenton got an amazing offer from an international company in Austria. We're all moving to Europe together." I felt punched in the gut. We're all moving. When were you planning to tell me? I need to start looking at colleges in Austria. Figure out transfers. Learn German maybe. The silence that followed was deafening. Dad finally said casually. You're not coming with us, Maricela. I stared at him. What do you mean I'm not coming? I'm your daughter too. Mom finally turned, her expression so cold it made my blood freeze. Maricela, you're 20 years old. You're an adult now. Adults handle their own problems. Kenton has an incredible position lined up. And frankly, we think it's time you learn to stand on your own 2 feet. What about finishing my degree? I still have 2 years left. That's your problem now, Dad said, not even looking up. I felt panic rising. So you're just going to stop paying my tuition? Just like that? Mom sighed dramatically and sat on a packed box. Let's be honest, Maricela. You've always been a burden on this family. The money we've spent on your college, we could have used it for so much more. The word burden slapped me in the face. A burden, I whispered. Well, what else would you call it? Elowyn chimed in, arms folded. Do you have any idea how much money Mom and Dad wasted on you? Money they could have saved for important things. My education isn't important. Shut back. Not when it's throwing good money after bad, Kenton said, wrapping his arm around her. At least Elowyn contributes to the family. She found a successful husband. She's building something. What are you doing? Making coffee. I swallowed hard. Okay, fine. If you won't take me now, I'll finish college here somehow and join you after graduation. Just give me your address in Austria. Silence again. Mom and Dad exchanged looks. Elowyn smirked. Maricela, Mom said slowly. We don't want you to join us later either. This is our chance for a fresh start. Elowyn nodded smugly. You need to understand, we can't keep carrying you forever. You're a financial burden we can't afford anymore. There it was again. Burden. I looked around at these people, my supposed family. Mom resumed folding clothes. Dad shuffled papers. Elowyn and Kenton whispered packing plans. I walked to the Christmas tree, placed my bag of gifts beneath it, and nobody even noticed. 20 years of being their daughter ended with being called a burden. I walked out of that house without a word. No one stopped me. No one followed me. No one even said goodbye. The train ride back to campus was a blur. I kept replaying their words over and over. Burden. Difficult. We don't want you. By the time I got back to my dorm, I was numb. Campus was completely empty. Everyone had gone home for Christmas break. My room felt like a tomb. Just me, my textbooks, and the crushing reality that I was truly alone now. I spent Christmas Day eating instant noodles and cheap cookies from a vending machine. No family dinner. No presents. No phone calls. The morning after Christmas, I forced myself to think practically. I needed about $26,500 to finish my last 2 years of college. My parents weren't going to help. They had made that brutally clear. So I had to figure it out myself. I went to my cafe job and begged my manager, Miss Darlene, for more hours. I'll take anything, I told her. Early mornings, late nights, doubles, whatever you have. She looked at me for a long moment, saw how desperate I was, and finally nodded. All right, honey. I'll put you on as much as I legally can. While other students partied or relaxed, I worked every single day. Sometimes 12-hour shifts, sometimes more if someone called out. I saved every dollar, bought only the bare necessities. No new clothes, no going out with friends, no splurges. Every penny went to tuition. In January, I learned from a cousin that my parents had sold the house and left for Europe with Elowyn and Kenton. They didn't leave a forwarding address, not even for relatives. It was like they wanted to make sure I could never find them. Fine by me. I was done with them too. The next 2 years were brutal, but I survived. I worked constantly, studied harder than I'd ever studied in my life, lived off canned soup and determination. But I did it. I graduated with excellent grades and a degree I had paid for entirely myself. No help from family. No handouts. Just pure stubbornness and coffee-stained textbooks. Right after graduation, I found a decent job at a marketing firm in Ridgemont City. Nothing glamorous, but the pay was steady. I rented a small one-bedroom apartment and began building a real life. I kept that same work ethic. I stayed late, volunteered for projects no one wanted, took online courses, read books on branding and analytics. Every bonus, every raise, every extra dollar went straight into savings. I had a goal. I wanted to buy my own place. After 5 years of living like a minimalist monk, I finally saved enough for a down payment. I bought a small condo, nothing fancy but clean and modern in a safe neighborhood. I got a mortgage and felt proud as hell signing those papers. No co-signers. No parents. Just me and a credit score built by sweat and struggle. For the next 3 years, I threw every extra dollar at the mortgage until it was nearly fully paid off. No vacations, no expensive clothes, no splurges. I wanted to own something, truly own it. When I made the final payment, I cried. Not from sadness but pure pride. But after a while, the condo felt small. I was doing well at work, making good money, and I wanted more space. Maybe even a family someday. So I sold the condo and bought a modest 3-bedroom house with a decent backyard. It wasn't huge, but it was mine. Well, mine and the bank's. I was genuinely happy for the first time in years. My job was going great. I had met a really sweet guy named Marlowe, and things were getting serious. I was decorating the house little by little, enjoying the quiet of my own space. Then one Tuesday evening, my dad's cousin Henrietta called. "Maricela, sweetheart, I have some news," she said. Something in her voice made my stomach twist. "What is it?" "Your parents are back in the United States, and they're looking for you." My heart dropped. "How do you know?" "Your mother called me last week asking if I had your address. Said they'd been trying to find you but you changed your number." I had changed it twice since college. Specifically so they could never find me again. "Henrietta, please tell me you didn't give it to them." "Of course not. After what they did. Never. But they might try other relatives. I wanted to warn you." After I hung up, I tried to shake it off. Why would they want to find me now, after nearly a decade of silence? I'd moved twice, changed jobs, changed everything. No way they'd track me down. Right. I went back to my routine, work, gym, spending time with Marlowe, fixing up the house. For a month, I almost forgot about it. Then one Saturday afternoon, while I was painting my guest bedroom, the doorbell rang. Opened the door. And there they were. All of them. Mom, Dad, Elowin. And 3 little kids I'd never seen before, clinging to her legs. They looked older, tired, and absolutely nothing like people living a dream life in Europe. For a moment, I just stood there with a paint roller in my hand. "Surprise," Mom said with a fake cheerful voice. Like we were old friends catching up. "How did you find me?" Yes. They didn't answer. Instead, they walked into my house without permission. The kids immediately started running around touching everything. "Well, Maricela," Elowin said, scanning the room like a real estate agent. "Nice place. Lots of room." Mom was doing the same thing, walking through my living room like she was measuring it. "Yes," she said. "This will work perfectly. Plenty of space for the children." "What the hell are you talking about?" finally asked. Elowin flopped onto my couch uninvited, pulling the youngest child into her lap. "Kenton turned out to be a complete monster," she said dramatically. "We bought a house in Austria, but he put everything, and I mean everything, in his name. Then he ran off with some young Austrian woman." She sniffed loudly. "He divorced me. Took the house. The money. Everything. I barely get any child support. We had to come back to the States with almost nothing." Mom nodded solemnly. "We've been living in a motel for a month." "That's terrible," I said carefully. "But what does this have to do with me?" The silence that followed was telling. "Maricela," Dad said in that same condescending tone he'd always used with me. "We're family. Family sticks together during hard times." Then it hit me. They wanted to stay here. They wanted my home. I stared at them. "Let me get this straight," I said. 10 years ago you told me I was a burden, refused to help me finish college, moved to Europe and vanished. And now you're here because your perfect life fell apart. And you want what exactly? Mom blinked like I was being unreasonable. We want to stay here, Maricela. With you. Just for a while. Until we're stable again. I stared. No. Mom froze. What? I said no. Absolutely not. You're not staying here. Maricela, be reasonable. Dad began. Reasonable. Cut him off. You told me to handle my own problems because I was an adult. Well, guess what? You're adults too. Handle your problems. Elowyn's face turned red. You can't be serious. We have children. You should have thought about that before putting everything in Kenton's name. Before burning every bridge you had. You're being selfish, Mom snapped. We raised you. We gave you everything. You gave me nothing, I said quietly. I paid for my own college. Bought my own condo. Bought this house. You left me with nothing. The room fell silent except for the kids squirming. Family is family, Dad said, using the same manipulative tone from my childhood. You made it clear 10 years ago I wasn't part of yours, I replied. And I opened the front door. You can go now. They stood there stunned. Then Mom hissed. You'll regret this. We'll make sure you help us. They stormed out. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. I figured their threats were empty. They had no money, no stability, no leverage. I went back to my life. Working, spending time with Marlo, fixing up the house. I almost convinced myself the nightmare was over. Then, 1 month later, I was served with legal papers. My parents were suing me for financial support. They claimed they were elderly, disabled, and unable to work. They demanded $5,200 a month from me. I stared at the documents for a long time, letting the shock dissolve into pure rage. These same people, who abandoned me, called me a burden, left the country without telling me, now wanted to force me to pay their bills. The audacity was unreal. Called a lawyer immediately. My colleague recommended attorney Selah Granger, a sharp woman with a reputation for shutting down ridiculous lawsuits. When I told her everything, she leaned back in her chair and said, Let me get this straight. Your parents cut you off, refused to pay for college, moved to another country without telling you, and now they want you to support them financially. That's correct. She blinked. Well, this is going to be interesting. We need evidence. Lots of it. Do you have proof you paid for college yourself? Yes. I kept everything. For the next 2 weeks I dug through boxes. Old bank statements showing my cafe paychecks, tuition receipts, tax forms, financial aid letters. Every scrap of proof that I paid for my education myself. It was painful. Every document reminded me of nights crying in my dorm, the hunger, the fear, the crushing loneliness. But I gathered it all. This is solid, Selah said. But we need more. Any documentation of them abandoning you? Any messages, letters? That was when I remembered Henrietta, Dad's cousin. I called her and explained everything. Oh, sweetheart, she sighed. I'm so sorry. They haven't changed at all. But I do have something that might help. She came over 2 days later with a thick manila envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter. No return address. Postmarked from Austria about 6 months after they left. It was from my mother. I read it with shaking hands. The letter said, they were relieved to be free of me. I had always been a burden. They were happier without me. I was a completely unnecessary person in their lives. But there was more. Henrietta pulled out her phone. I recorded a phone call with your mother 2 weeks ago, she said. She didn't know I was listening when she bragged about the lawsuit. She pressed play. My mother's voice filled the room, clear as day, saying, they forged medical certificates to appear disabled. They planned to extort money from me. They deserved my income because she owes us after everything we spent on her. This was their payback for me refusing to let them move in. I nearly dropped the phone. This wasn't just selfishness. This was malicious. The trial was a circus from the start. My parents arrived dressed like frail elderly victims, moving slowly, each holding onto metal walkers like they were about to collapse. They even had Elowyn and the kids wearing somber clothes, like props in their performance. Their lawyer painted them as helpless, poor, abandoned parents who sacrificed everything for their ungrateful daughter. My mother even cried on the stand, telling the judge she didn't know how her child could be so heartless. My father claimed they spent their entire life savings on my education. Lies. Then it was our turn. Selah stood, calm and confident, and dismantled their case piece by piece. First she showed the bank statements proving I paid for all tuition, my work records showing full-time employment during school, the documentation of their international move, the sale records of their house, proof of their financial stability at the time they abandoned me. Then she played the recording. The courtroom went still. Everyone heard my mother admit to forging documents, bragging about manipulation, and laughing about how much money they planned to squeeze out of me. Then Selah presented the letter. She read aloud the part where my mother called me a completely unnecessary person. My parents' lawyer turned pale. My parents looked like they wanted to sink into the floor. The judge was furious. He slammed his gavel and said, "This court finds the plaintiff's claims not only without merit, but intentionally fraudulent. The evidence shows a clear pattern of abandonment, deception, and attempted extortion. Furthermore, falsifying disability documents is a serious offense." He dismissed the case instantly. Then he fined my parents for submitting forged medical documents. And finally, he issued a restraining order preventing them from contacting me in any form. Outside the courthouse they tried to approach me one last time, probably to guilt me, shame me, or beg. Selah stepped between us and said sharply, "Don't even think about it. You come near my client again, you're going to jail." They backed away. Elowyn gave me one last hateful glare before following them. That was 2 years ago. I haven't heard from any of them since. Henrietta said they moved to some small forgotten town in another state, probably to hide from the consequences of their fraud. As for me, I'm thriving. Marlowe and I got married last year. He stood by me through the whole ordeal, never once wavering. We're even talking about starting a family soon. It's exciting and terrifying, but in a good way. I want to be a better parent than the ones I had. And I will be. Because I learned something important through all of this. Family is not defined by blood. Family is defined by people who show up for you. People who care about you. People who don't abandon you when things get hard. My biological family taught me that lesson in the harshest way possible. But I'm grateful now. I built a beautiful life without them. Safely, peacefully, joyfully. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had let them move in. If I had forgiven them, even after everything. But then I remember. The letter. The recording. The way they looked at me like I owed them something just for existing. I don't owe them anything. I never did. And now, I'm finally free.